What's up, everybody? Try again, and just on a walk at the moment. It's cooler again today, cloudy and stuff. So, yeah. Hope everyone's well. Welcome in. It's been very slow this morning, so I don't know. Maybe it's just one of those days, eh? Oh, thank you for the like, whoever that is. Yeah, it's just like gone dull today. At least there's no like insects and stuff. Yeah, there's like loads and loads of like ladybirds and stuff. It was getting a bit much. There was like loads of them around yesterday. So at least I don't think there'll be so much of that today. It was a bit like abnormally high amounts of like ladybirds and stuff. I was like, what the hell? Especially at this time of year, October, it's just a bit odd, really. Thank you for the likes, everybody. So, yeah, I'm just on a walk at the moment, so. But, yeah, maybe that explains why I can recover. So I've realised that the more I feel like I'm recovering from my workouts and stuff, I feel like I've gone for like a decent walk, I can actually feel more fresh, more recovered. So that's a tip that I can sort of suggest, that some people just aren't walking around enough or just moving their bodies enough in general. So by doing more movement throughout the day, you might find you're actually able to recover and be able to train more. Another thing I would suggest is incorporating meditation, as it can help with decreasing cortisol and stress. There's many benefits of meditation. I might be actually making some content on that. But hi Daisy May, good to see you. How are you doing? Are you going live soon? What time are you going live, if you are? Because I might check it out if I get a chance. But yeah, happy Tuesday to you. What are you up to today? Are you going live or something? So I hope that goes well. But yeah, so I took all the moderators away. I had to do that because just to make sure like no one was like messing around. So I've just kind of like clear it all out. So yeah, at the moment I don't need any of that, so I'd rather just kind of not have to have that, and just kind of if I need to get rid of stuff, I'll do it myself. Otherwise I might start just adding a couple that I can actually fully trust. And I'm not saying that you people are not trustworthy, it's just like I'd rather just have people that I 100% trust in, that I can know for certain that they are actually not gonna abuse that. So but thank you for the 3 likes, everybody. Hope everyone's having a good day. So yeah, just walking around at the moment. As you can see, I'm outdoors, so yeah. So yeah, if you have any questions, I'm in the chat, but nothing like too personal, really. But yeah, if you have anything you want to ask about health, fitness, anything like that, put it in the chat. but yeah, so it's just funny like people getting attacked for like just trying to be like healthy, and it's like say if they downsize, then they get like shamed for that because it happened with example, and they're like, oh, look at him, he's not, you know, it's like he still was like probably way bigger than they are, you know, but they mock him because he's lost some size, probably because they themselves are not feeling good in their own skin, so they then try and kind of shame others for actually prioritizing their health, because it gets to a point where you can't really keep up that size without, you know, killing you prematurely. You are going to die prematurely anyway. You've been abusing it for so long, but abusing these drugs. But like, you know, you can sort of, you know, it's not going to be as bad if you can come off it sooner. And that's what happens, is they might still be on like TRT or something, and that's where they're able to kind of maintain some of that mass, but they're you know, but then it's like, oh look, they've lost all their muscle. It's like they haven't actually lost all of their muscle, they still have more muscle than you. But it's like they try and, you know, sort of shame people. It's like when they call him Rock the Pebble, and it's like, yeah, he has lost quite a bit of muscle, but you know, he can't keep on blasting gear. And yeah, he's been lying about being natural and all that, and that's not good, but admits to things. You know, these like Hollywood people can't really admit it, but the thing is that people will try and just mock them. The thing is, right, you know, it's inevitably going to happen, so they're going to have to downsize. You know, he's like 53 years old now. He's getting the health of someone who's like morbidly obese, some of these like bodybuilders, you know. People think that bodybuilding is actually healthy, but you know, especially at the extreme levels, you could compare some of them to like morbid obesity, all the inflammation in their bodies and stuff like that. It's not good. They're putting all these things in, it increases the size of the heart. It does so much to the body that, and the damage is irreversible, you know, just like with morbid obesity. So we need to try and, you know, kind of, you know, not be recommending people doing these kinds of things, because you don't know what you're doing to your body. Your body's only meant to get to a certain size, I believe. If you try and get your body over a certain size, then, you know, through unnatural means, then you are, you know, hello Chris, hope you're well. So if you get your body over a certain size, then that is not a wise thing to do. You're just going to end up taxing your body quicker. Your joints and everything are going to wear out quicker. Your heart's going to wear out quicker. Even things like your kidneys, because they can only take so much, you know. And the more aggressive you go in with these things, the worse it's going to be. And I think they found that like competitive bodybuilders tend to live to like less than 50 on average. I think they found that the life expectancy was around 48 years old, which is probably about 3 decades lower than the average guy. You know, and so it means that this is, you know, your averages. So if someone really like tries to push the envelope and really go aggressive with it, you know, some of them are dying in their 20s and 30s, you know, because, you know, they start getting on this gear, and then it's like, and some of them are starting earlier and earlier now. They're literally starting in their teens. Some of them won't even make it past their fucking 20s, you know. It's just like, it's insane, like it's just so like, you could say it's like this, what's the word, like myopic or something. They just have no thought about the future, and they don't think about what could happen in the future, and like they just have no idea, or they just don't care. Maybe they just don't care. Some of them, they're just about this instant fame. But what good is all of that when you're just going to die in a few years anyway? Okay, you get Mr. Olympia or whatever it might be. Okay, great. But then you... So I think there was even one that died on the show, the bodybuilding show. They actually dropped dead because they got themselves so in for it and then they dropped dead. So, you know, is that worth it, you know? I'm not trying to tell people what to do, but people really need to think about what they're doing, because you start doing these things and causing irreversible damage, you know? You might look back and you regret it. You got to really think about what it is you want from life. What do you value from life? Does all the fame and glory really matter when you're dead in a few years' time, you know? And you never get to see your kids and your grandkids growing up. You got to think about these things, you know? What do you value the most in life? Hello, Carol, welcome back. Another thing is that, like, people get on the gear and then they try and come off it. The problem is that people find it difficult to, because then they lose a lot of their size. So then they feel small then. Whereas if they were natural and they just gradually got bigger or whatever, and just in a more sustainable way, then they don't need to downsize after that, because they don't have to come off. So then they're just kind of naturally just building up, you know, over time, and that's better than, say, peaking early and then just coming off all that stuff and then losing half your gains. You know, it doesn't make sense, in my opinion, to be doing all that. It's just, you know, it's not a wise thing to be doing. But it's just this whole chasing the instant gratification that is what makes people do it. Be careful what you wish for, you know, because is it worth shaving decades off your life to get that glory, you know? Because that can happen, especially if you go extreme with it. And there is natural divisions, but yeah, I know one and others big as whatever, but it's like, is it worth training it as an enhanced lift? Like, you know, have health problems. Not a lot of these people have to be on friggin' CPAP machines. Their cardiovascular health sucks. And this is the thing with, like, when it comes to weightlifting and people talking about fitness. How is that fitness if your cardiovascular system is fucked? You know, a lot of these people don't even do cardio because they've been told that cardio is bad for your health. But cardio is actually very important for your health. Not for your health, I mean, sorry. They say cardio is bad for gains, but it can actually be good for your gains if you do it in the right amount and in the right way. Because like I said, you know, if you're doing, you know, like if you can do, like, say, steady state cardio, it's actually good for promoting blood flow, and you also get the cardiovascular benefits of it. So you could, say, do some zone 2 cardio, or you could turn your workouts into like a cardio workout with, say, like not very much like resting between sets, and you kind of switch between different exercises. That is a way to kind of improve the, you know, the cardiovascular benefits of that. So you could, say, like, do a bunch of squats and then follow it up with push-ups, for example, and that way you can build muscle and improve cardiovascular health by keeping your heart rate elevated. Whereas the way that a lot of them do it, they'll do a set to failure and then they'll rest for 3 minutes, sometimes even 5 minutes, and then do another set. So they'll be spending hours in the gym but not have actually done a whole lot. They're not really moving their body a lot, they're just lifting heavy weights. You know, that it's not the best for cardio. So you can either, you know, do some prioritized cardio training or do it as a circuit, and you do like a few different exercises and go between them, doing like supersets and things like that as a way to but you know, if all you're focused on is building the maximum amount of muscle, then that's not really fitness, I don't think, is it? But like I said, there is benefits of doing steady state cardio for improved blood flow, improved like nutrient delivery, and improving removing of metabolic byproducts like lactic acid and things like that. So these are things that, you know, moving around is going to help to mobilize and get rid of it. So, because otherwise we can get stiff and things can get trapped in our body, which is going to hinder us actually and promote more muscle breakdown and metabolism, and we're not going to be able to recover as well. So there's a lot of things that we can do to improve our health, and a lot of people say, oh, but cardio can then increase cortisol. Well, actually, I think it's got a net positive on cortisol, and as long as you don't do too much. So there's a lot of excuses that people have, and I think people are just trying to cope and try and make excuses to not do it because they don't want to do it. But it's going to benefit you, it's going to benefit your health. So if you don't do any kind of form of cardiovascular fitness, even if you try and incorporate it into your workouts, doing your workouts in a way that improves cardiovascular fitness, then you're not going to get the full benefits of it. Yeah, you can get stronger and bigger and whatever, but then what good is that if your heart health is shit? Okay, take care, Daisy, but yeah, the point is just like, your health should be your number one priority, really, I think. It's like, yeah, you can have a good looking body, but bigger isn't always better, you know? You gotta remember that. There's this mindset of like, oh, bigger is better, but then it gets to a point where you got like bulging traps, you got it's like, it starts to look grotesque after a certain point, I think. Like especially when you take steroids, when it's like getting to that point where it just looks really unnatural. You start getting veins everywhere, you start, you know, these are things that it's just going to start to look grotesque and look freaky. And that's not really what you want. Yeah, you want to be like in good shape and be healthy, but like it's not, I don't know why anyone would want to just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger at the expense of their health. Just to keep getting stronger, but then it's like, okay, yeah, you're getting stronger, that's great, whatever, but you're also putting a lot more damage on your joints and things like that. Because these steroids actually, because the problem is that the joints and whatever, and you know, like your connective tissues and whatever, they actually don't, you know, like adapt as quickly as muscles. And when you take steroids, that actually exacerbates that problem. And that's why people on steroids tend to be even more likely to get injured, because they're lifting greater and greater weights at a faster rate than someone who's natural, but the joints and stuff, they don't catch up in strength. Oh, thank you very much, Daisy. Yeah, you have a great day. I'll hope to catch you soon on the live. But like I said, steroids are just a bunch of like, you know, it's drugs basically, and people are trying to glorify. It's like, it's one of the things I agree with. Like, what is it called? James Smith, and he says that bodybuilding is the only sport that glorifies having an ED and a drug problem. You know, it's crazy, isn't it, that bodybuilding is, you know, because you think of sports as being something healthy and being active and stuff like that, but the sport of bodybuilding is actually just it's quite degenerate and quite, you know what I mean, it's quite a vain kind of sport that's just, you know, unless you're like sub 5% body fat or something, it's just like, then they think of you as fat or something. That's how skewed it becomes. So it's just not worth it. Even if you say you wanted to become an influencer, and so I've thought about this before, it's like, well, how do I get myself big on social media? Does that mean I have to take roids, take testosterone away? The thing is, it's not worth it because I don't know what it could do to me. Like, I could end up getting rage beyond any kind of control, you know, for example. Because the thing is that I can get tempted as it is, so that I would never be able to take that stuff because of that, I think. I'd probably end up becoming out of control. So that's one of the reasons I could not take it. And you just don't know what you're capable of, and until you do these things, and it's kind of scary the thought of what I could actually be capable of, you know, if I actually took that shit, you know. And not to mention, like I said, the irreversible damage on your health. Also, ages your skin as well. That is one of the things that, because the problem is that it can decrease your collagen, make you look older, and you see them, they look way older than they are. Like, it ages their skin rapidly. Whereas if you stay natural, then you're not going to get that. So you just like focus on being natural, and then when you start to get to, you know, really like diminishing returns, then maybe it's a point to focus on something else. You know, because it's just, I don't think it's necessarily worth it to keep forcing it just to be able to like squeeze out a little bit extra, you know, whether it's strength gains or muscle gains, whatever. It would just get to a point where it's increasingly not worth it. You know, this is the thing with like, you know, it's like at a certain point, I think it's probably good to just be happy with where you're at and be like, okay, I need to prioritize other things because there's so much more to life. If you're having to dedicate so much time to working out, to eating tons of food to try and bulk up, you know, maybe it's good to just then start to just cruise and just kind of just to maintain what you've got, you know, and then focus on other things. Because the amount of physical and mental energy to exert into growing, I think they said that like it takes something like 3 times the energy to grow muscle than it does to maintain it. It's like you could say do, you know, let's say if you was training, like you could probably just do like a full body workout every week and just like get away with that. You just go really hard and just like, you know, then it's like you'll keep all that muscle because you're, as long as you're still providing some stimulus, but it's just, it won't be enough to really grow your muscles because you're not providing it enough. So you're not providing it frequently enough. So it's just, you could just say like, do that and like, it would be enough to maintain it. And that's okay, you know, just like, you could just do a little bit every day just to maintain what you've got. Maybe like 1 set to failure on each exercise per day. Per muscle, say like, you could probably get through it all in about 20 minutes or so each day. That's once you get to a point where you can just maintain it and just, you don't have to put a lot of time into forcing growth, and that's not really ideal, is it? You know, you get to a certain point where the gains start to slow down. You know, because you're going to get to the point where you won't even really notice. So why even bother? Then you could put that time into, say, learning a new skill or something, and really like excel at that. You know, just like, so it's about like, there's this thing that they say about becoming 1% better every day. But the problem is if you're only focusing on one thing, then you can't keep becoming 1% better at that every single day forever. What you want to do is like switch up after a bit. Once you've got to a certain level that you can maintain it, and then sort of just find something else. Like for example, learning an instrument or something. Because once you've learned it, then you don't need to do a whole lot to maintain that. You know, because it's like, it's the muscle memory is there, and even if you did, it's like the muscle memory, those skills come back very quickly. So it's all about just getting to a certain point with something, and then you're like, okay, I'm happy with that. I can then prioritize something else. There's only so much time we have in the day to prioritize things. There's only so much mental and physical energy. But that's why you can't be like good at everything or super good at everything. You can be decent at a lot of things because you, like I say, if you put enough time into a lot of different things, then yeah, you can. But there's only so much time that we can dedicate. We just have to kind of accept that. But yeah, just hope everyone's well. Share this out if you can. I appreciate all the support that I'm getting, and you know, it's very nice of people to send the support my way, and just trying to just feel like more positive about things and not let negativity get to me. So, because sometimes it's your own fault if you're not like getting where you want to be. Like, you could be a lot further ahead, but your ego or whatever is stopping you, and we have to take a step back and think, okay, maybe I'm the problem, you know? This is the thing. Do you actually deserve what it is you want? You have to be really honest with yourself and admit when you're you know, when you've made mistakes, or when you just, you know, not doing as much as you could. We have to sort of take accountability. And it seems like these days people seem to struggle to take accountability, you know, they're unable to admit fault. Everyone seems to just like, I don't know if it's always been that way, but maybe it's just something in the human psyche that we tend to not want to admit fault. I don't know what that's all about. Is there some kind of evolutionary mechanism behind it of not wanting to admit fault or something? I don't know. Maybe it's just something that, like, people don't feel like a real man if they admit they're wrong and that they're not perfect. But the truth is that it takes bravery and courage to actually admit fault, which is actually one of the masculine traits. So if you think that it makes you less of a man, it's actually the opposite. It makes you more of a man to own up to faults and, you know, and take responsibility and accountability. You know, that's what I would say anyway. But let me know what you all think. We should all be trying to be our best, and to be our best, we sometimes have to say, you know what, I need to step up my game. I've made some errors, and yeah, thank you for pointing that out, kind of thing. You know, it's like, instead we would be all like, how dare you, you know, criticize me? I am perfect and whatever. It's like, no, you're not. You're a fallible human just like everybody else. You know, that's the harsh truth that people need to hear. And it's okay, you know, it's okay to be fallible. That's just how we are as humans, you know. That's how we grow, you know. We learn from our mistakes. Well, some people do anyway. You know, but if you aren't willing to learn, then... So I've had that before, where I'd be like, feel a bit uncomfortable with like criticisms and things. I think it's just because, like, I think what it comes down to is people feel personally attacked. People want to, you know, feel that they're always perfect or whatever, you know. Well, perfection doesn't really exist, because there's always going to be room for improvement, no matter how good we're doing. There's always going to be, you know, something that could be improved on. You know, like let's say you even made the perfect song. There is no such thing, and it's subjective as well anyway. So even if you did that, there's always going to be someone that's like, oh yeah, I don't really like that. It's like, you could say like, even like say if you used AI to try and come up with the perfect thing, there's always going to be somebody that's going to be like, nah, I don't like it. So it's just kind of like, we have to also accept that even if we think we're perfect and that you can still get rejected, you can still, some people aren't going to appreciate it, you know, that's just how it is. You have to be able to accept that you're not for everybody and that that's okay, because it doesn't matter, you know, because the right person will appreciate you for who you are. You know, whether that's friends or whether that's a relationship or whatever, you know, it's like, even sometimes even family might not even appreciate you. That's fine, you know, just, you have to learn to appreciate yourself first. Learn to appreciate all the things you have, but at the same time also be able to accept that you're able to fail and whatever, because this is kind of like a humble confidence. It's like you can be confident but also humble, not confident in an arrogant kind of way that's just very like delusional. We don't want to be like delusional and just be like thinking that, you know, like we're invincible and whatever, because as soon as you start to think like that, as they say, pride comes before fall. That's why, because, you know, you get all cocky and arrogant, and then before you know it, you're drowning in debt or whatever, because you made all these mistakes thinking that nothing bad could happen and nothing could be further from the truth. That's the moment when it all comes falling apart. So yeah, don't let you know, the ego and whatever, and, you know, kind of keep you from actually like achieving things, because like that will ruin your life if you let it. So you know, just yeah, sometimes we can be our own worst enemy, where we allow our or on the other side, you've got the opposite, insecurities and self-doubts and, you know, pessimism and things like that. These are all things that can also block you from you know, achieving greatness, because then when you don't think you're worthy of anything, then that's what, you know, sort of that's what the world is going to mirror to you, whatever you believe it, you know, to be. But the thing is, we can't just believe we're perfect. And some might say, well, that will just create that mirror or something, if you believe in all that. Some might say, oh, well, if you think you're perfect, then therefore, and it's like we could think of ourselves as perfect in a subjective sense, but if you think, well, I'm never wrong, I'm going to manifest being right all the time, well, that's not really how things work. You know, that's not how reality works. There are certain things that are sort of, you know, we're not able to actually really, you know, change in this universe or whatever. You know, it's like there are certain objectives, things that happen, and we can get into the right mindset and be positive, but also we need to stay humble. We need to be willing to learn and grow, because it's like the, I don't know if it's true, but maybe like the universe wants to, you know, learn you these things, to teach you these lessons as a way for you to grow. So sometimes you have to learn to, you know, go through setbacks and things. Hello, Anthony, how are you doing? I hope you're well. Sometimes we have to, you know, go through setbacks to learn. So maybe that's, you know, the universe's way of like teaching you things like the importance of things like, you know, I can't think of any examples right now, but yeah, I hope you're well anyway. I'm going to get off in a second, but actually I can, actually I'll stay on like a little bit longer, but yeah, just kind of like having a bit of a chat about just the whole thing of, thank you for the 8 likes everybody anyway, but just kind of like being humble but confident. It's like you can be both. You can know what you're worth, you can have high self-esteem and confidence, but also humble yourself at the same time. So we need to learn to have that balance. Because the problem is that most people, it seems like they're either, I don't know if it's most people, but a lot of people, they're either too confident and too arrogant, or they're too insecure, and you know, it's like we need to find a balance of both, of humbleness and confidence. Oh yeah, welcome in. So that's what I'm saying, you know, to kind of, it's all about balance, you know, it's all about, we'll be getting off in a second, guys, but yeah, finding that right balance of knowing that you can, what you can achieve, but also being willing to learn and grow, because it doesn't matter that we're not there yet. That's okay, but we are constantly evolving, constantly learning. We can't expect to have it all figured out right now. You know, we are constantly growing and evolving as a person, and yeah. All right, everybody, I'll see you all later. Bye for now.